everyone, welcome back to the Budgeting Sisters. I'm Melissa, and today I am going to introduce to you a new, it's not really going to be a series, but this is something that we're hoping to continue on with throughout the new year. And we were originally planning on starting it in January, but then we were like, why are we waiting? Why are we waiting? If God's asking us to do it, let's just do it and start it now. So, April and I, welcome to Stewardship Sunday. Stewardship doesn't just mean financially for us, but it means to guide the care of what God has given us. Okay? And about the same time as we came up with Stewardship Sunday, we also came across this book. And if you watched my financial goals video the other day for the HOP, I think it was last week, I had talked briefly about this book by Bob Leutch, something like that. He is a blogger. Him and his wife do a podcast called Seed Time Money Podcast. They are on YouTube, and they, like I said, have an amazing website with lots of resources. This book, April and I actually got for free. All we had to do was pay for shipping for the book, so it was $5. So definitely go over to Seed Time Money, I believe is their website. Trying to find it here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just seedtimemoney.com. And see if it's still at that price. I know they're offering a set now with this book and another one. But they have tons of resources, both free and book format and in their podcast. So definitely check them out. But this is what Stewardship Sunday is going to be based on. In here, they have a, what do they call it? A motto, a rule that they live by type deal. As you can tell, I am not very far into this at all. So we're kind of going to be going through this together. But you always hear when it comes to money, that you have assets, okay? And they don't dispute that. But to think that your value is based on your assets is what they come against. Our value is never in our finances. Our value is never in what people like think of us or things like that. But it's certainly not in the value of our assets, our net worth. That's the word, net worth. And it says right here, the thought of any number being labeled my net worth is pretty insulting. You and I are intricately and lovingly designed by God for a unique purpose. We have so much value, regardless of our financial success or failures, that Jesus came to die for us. To say the sum of my worth is a particular dollar amount doesn't sit well with me. Additionally, when you believe that any amount of money defines your worth, you are more tempted to look to that number for your identity rather than God. And so that was like mind-blowing to me. And in the next section, he talks about something called AUM, Assets Under Management. because everything we have is given to us by God. It is our job to manage the assets, God's assets, that He has given us to manage. Okay? Now, yes, they are in our care, but those assets still are God's. Even if you go as far as your children, they're yours, but who gave them to you? God gave them to you. So it is your job to steward them and manage them well. So for a kickoff of Stewardship Sunday, what I wanted to do was take this thought process and see how I want to pertain it to my life, okay? He, in the book, simply goes at it from like a money perspective. I'm not even going that far. Yes, I said that wrong. I'm taking it even further than that. I'm dealing with it as money, yes. But I'm also dealing with it as my home, my car, my clothing, everything I eat, what's in my house. Those are all assets that God has given me to manage, okay? So let's go ahead and list out some of those things. So my first thing is the RV. If you're unsure what that pertains to me, is we live in our RV full time. So this is our home, okay? That is an asset that we have got to manage well, because if we don't manage it well, we will not have a home to live in. All right. The next one is our truck. That is definitely a huge asset that we have to manage well, because if we don't manage it well, we can't get to work, we can't get to doctors, we can't get anywhere to do anything without this. So we've got to take care of that. Now, recently, my amazing husband, who knows the way to my heart, he found me a deep freezer. And he even cleared it with the owner of the campground that we are staying at, to be able to plug it in and keep it outside and everything like that. So he took care of all the logistics of it and even getting it, and then told me about it. So why do I consider this an asset? Because this is how I can grow our pantry. Right now, I'm not in a position where I have a ton of storage, so I can't be doing a ton of canning and things like that like I was before. So having this deep freezer makes it back that we can do that and keep stock of our pantry and things like that, and prepare for the future for my family. So we'll just put pantry over here. Now, what other assets do we have under our care? We, of course, have finances. These are, now that I'm thinking of it, these are not going to be in any set order. Because, I mean, I'm thinking of things already that, have come out of this order. So let's just not put an order to them. Our finances are definitely an asset that we have to manage. Now, to me, finances, it would be bills, sinking funds, wallet money, savings accounts, things like that. We do not have any credit cards. We do not have, other than our truck and now a medical bill, we do not have any debt per se. So, they're just basic management of current finances. And let's see, I'm even going to put work on here because I do work out of the home. My husband is on disability at the moment, and that is where that is at. So work is a definite asset for me that I have got to manage my time well, because I need to be able to stay working, because that's important for us to be able to get ahead. Because without me working, we wouldn't be able to push forward and get ahead. So we have the RV, the truck, the deep freezer, our finances, work. I am a big paper crafter. So, I have a paper, I'm going to put paper. Do I want to put paper? No. I am a paper crafter, but I am going to broaden this horizon a little bit. And I am going to put craft supplies in. Because it's not just paper that I have. I have a printer. I have a silhouette print, vinyl cutter, and just other crafting supplies here that I had gotten for projects or things like that to give to somebody or whatever. And so that is definitely something that, one, tells me I'm not managing my assets correctly, because it's unorganized, it's not being used, and so some decisions have got to be made in regards to these craft supplies. Kind of that use it or lose it type thing. Like, I live in an RV. I can't afford to take up half my storage space just with pads of paper. I could easily do that. And I had decluttered a bunch before we got in here. So they've dwindled their way back in. Let's see what else. I'm just looking around and going through each of the different areas of the RV as I'm sitting here and figuring out how I want to look at things. I also want to put our tools on here, because some of our stuff is in storage and some of it is here in the RV. And so some of the stuff we have had to rebuy, because I'm not driving 3 hours to get into our storage space to get it out. So now we need to figure out, just like my craft supplies, which ones we're going to keep. Do we need to keep them all? If we're going to keep them all, how are we going to store them and things like that? That, to me, is stuff that falls under my management, okay? It's up to me to make sure that this place is not a cluttered disaster so that we can't do anything. It's up to me to manage it well, steward it well, so that we know where things are when we need it. We have access to what we need when we need it. And to know what we have. Because right now, I couldn't tell you the tools that we have. And I couldn't even tell you the craft supplies that I have, because I'm sure that I have way more than what I am even thinking in my head. So that is all part of management. You need to keep your inventory. You need to keep track of everything and keep it organized so that you know what you have. Okay? That is all part of management. Just like at work, you have to keep track of all your stuff. If you don't keep track of it, your company is going to be wasting money and spending money and throwing away things that could be making you money and stuff like that. Like, we have got to change our aspect into not just looking at, not our aspect, but our perception of not just looking at our finances, but what around us can make us or save us in our finances. That is management. That is stewardship. And that is what this Sunday things are going to be all about. So, any other things that I can think of? can probably fall underneath one of these subcategories. So what I'm going to do now that I got my main areas that are under my management, my main assets, okay, that are under my management, I need to make sure, in the book, he correlates it with, if you're if you want to lose weight, you're going to track things. You're going to keep touching base with things, okay? And that's how he deals with managing his assets, okay? Some of these are just going to be once a month. You got to look and see where things are at. Some of them are going to be once a week. Some of them are going to be every day. So we need to know how often we need to check in. Now, you guys are just like mentally processing this with me. I feel like I'm just speaking out loud with the voices in my head. How often do you need to lay your hands on things? Okay. Oops, thanks. There we go. How often do you need to lay your hands on things to keep track and to keep order of those assets that you have? Okay. If you want to keep things like with the diet scenario, okay, if you want to keep moving things in the right direction, you can't just wait till your pants don't fit anymore or your pants are getting tight before you start keeping track of things. You've got to maybe weigh in once a week, okay? Or even if that's some people are funny about that and they can't do that because it triggers things in their brain that are not good for them to like obsess over. So maybe it is just, okay, keeping track of your clothes. How are they fitting? How do you feel in them? Are you comfortable in them or not? Okay. It brings in that mental aspect of managing your assets. Okay. I'm regularly going through my craft supplies and saying, oh, I really wish I had this, or I really would like to get into this in the future, but it takes a lot of finances or whatever to buy the tools and things like that. In order to manage my craft supplies well, I need to maybe keep a list. Okay, Christmas is coming. Is this something that maybe I want to ask for Christmas to get into to help me organize my craft supplies, or to start a new project that I really would like to get into without dumping a ton of finances on it? Or even with my deep freezer, okay? In order to have things in my deep freezer, I need freezer bags. I need a list of what I have in there. I need maybe aluminum pans or whatever, because part of my using of my deep freezer is also for pre-made meals. So that makes it easier for me to work and still be able to eat healthy and things like that. So you can kind of see how some of these are starting to fold together, okay? If you manage one thing well, it helps to manage another thing well. Okay, so how often do I need to lay hands on things? Okay, I know these are my different areas. How often am I going to necessarily need to go through my tools? Okay, some of those tools, maybe once a month, maybe it's just quarterly, like as the seasons change. Do I have what I need? Can I look at things and reassess things to see if I need anything different? So I need to go back into each of these different areas and address how often do I need to put my hands on things and keep managing them. Okay? And what this probably is going to be the most important for me. What parts take finances and what parts take time and what parts just take organizing? Okay, I keep coming back to craft supplies because to me this is one of my most important ones. Now, finances, not necessarily, because I have a lot of stock and inventory in place. But if I don't know that, then I would be purchasing things and spending money that is not needed. So that's where finances would come into play with that. Time, if I want to manage them well, organize them well, and be able to make use of them in order to make me finances, that really, to me, all comes down to time. Okay? So some of these things, in order to manage them, isn't even going to include any money. It is just going to include time and energy. Let's put time and energy. Okay? So you can still manage your assets without having money. You can still steward things well without having money, okay? So we can't use money as an excuse to not take care of our stuff. All right? This next year, for me, God has already given me my word, and it is stewardship all the way. Because, and it goes a little bit with this past year, but to me, to steward things is to take ownership of my things and guard them well, manage them well, take care of things in a way they deserve to be taken care of. Because if I'm not, if my paper products that God allowed me to find on super clearance is just sitting in a cupboard and not doing anything, I'm not managing it well. Okay? Because God gave them to me for a reason. One, for my own enjoyment, because He wants us to have fun and love what we're doing. But also to then in turn teach somebody how to do something maybe. Or make something in order to sell something so that other people can know how to do it. Or can make it for themselves. So you can see how it kind of, they flow into each other and they don't just involve finances. And that's what Stewardship Sunday is for me, because I don't have a lot of finances. Let me say this, but please hear everything I'm saying. I'm not my sister. My sister works a full-time, very stressful job, and she gets paid to work that job. Okay, she is compensated for her work that she puts into that job. Now, I am not able to do what my sister April does. I am not able, I'm not saying mentally, but I'm saying physically, I could not do what she does. Okay? My brain don't think that way. And my health could not handle the amount of stress that she deals with at work. Okay? God has given her that brain and that ability to do that, and God bless her, she does it and does it well. I am not, okay? Now, if it is me getting into a kitchen and making you a pizza, I can do that. I can do that all night long, and I do sometimes. But those connections of a smile, those connections of a meal when somebody is exhausted, that I can do, okay? But if I don't manage my time well, then I'm not going to be able to do it. So you can see fully, and it kind of comes back to, as well as my sister is compensated for her work and finances. Mine is compensated for my work usually in other ways. So I may not have 30, 50, 300 to put into sinking funds. But you know what? I have my sinking funds established. I can make some amazing envelopes. I can make some amazing savings challenges, and I can get that out for other people to be able to manage their finances well. And in turn, makes finances for me to be able to put $5, $10 into my sinking funds. Okay? I hope that makes sense, because it has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with how much anybody makes. Whether you're no income, low income, middle income, or high income, you can do all of these by just sitting down and thinking through things, putting your hands on things, spending a little bit of time and energy on things, organizing things, and keeping track of things. So for this first Stewardship Sunday, we have certainly talked long enough. And let me know if I have missed any areas that you can think of, or maybe you have an area that you want to add to the list. Please put it down below. Let's keep this conversation going, because the last thing I want is Stewardship Sunday to become just about finances. You're more than your finances. And you know what? They're not your finances. They're God's finances. And it all comes back to, how are we managing the assets that He has given us? So please keep the conversation going down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Go on over to seedtimemoney.com and check out their resources. I know he's got a free class coming up this week that you might be able to jump on in. I'm hoping to. It depends on my work schedule. But they have lots of resources. But for now, this has been Stewardship Sunday. And we will see you all later on, let's see who's next. Menu Monday, maybe? Or Mini Monday? Or maybe both. You'll have to stick around to see. Bye, everyone.